Welcome to the Glacier Gamble podcast, talking again about Loki. Loki, another just fantastic episode. Just leave that there the whole time.
Yeah, what if I just leave it here the whole time and just talk?
Loki, another
Oh, he's
another
in it.
really good episode.
How about Loki?
Yeah.
We can do Echo reaction, Echo.
Well, we haven't talked about the Loki episode yet.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Never mind. Disconnect. Don't worry about that. Listeners, just stop.
Yeah.
And then we're also going to talk about the little Echo trailer reaction. But first, let's talk about Loki. In the newest episode, everybody is spaghetti.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Show's over.
Yep, it's done.
They're talking about this is Loki's Infinity War, and his next episode's his Endgame.
Sure.
I get the concept. I get where they're coming
comparison.
from.
Right, like,
it was a pretty big mic drop moment when he figured out how to time slip at the end.
Right.
Where he's like, I can change things.
I can rewrite the story. I can write the story myself.
So he is, for those of you that didn't watch Once Upon a Time, the TV show, he is basically the new author.
Here's a question.
Henry.
Here's a question.
Okay.
Why is he time slipping?
That's a great question. I was thinking the same thing while watching. Why is he time slipping?
Why some variant from 2012?
Why is this specific Loki time, and why now?
Yeah, why this exact moment?
And why is this, like, when he gets pruned? Well, he got pruned, so he's supposed to be like the only one left. Clearly, he's not, because he had to prune himself.
Right.
So there's other versions of him out there, even though that, according to OB, would make it so he's the only Loki left. But we digress. Yeah. Just like, why does Sylvie have to be there if she has the same temporal aura as Loki? Because she is Loki.
Yeah. Yep.
Those are a couple of plot holes.
That's the same concept of all these people saying that OB is a Kang variant himself. Like, he is sketchy, and I know the symbolism they're using in regards to, like, Loki gave OB's variant a TVA book, and it, like, highlighted him grabbing the TVA book and handing it to him. Very similar to, like, Renslayer giving it to a young Victor Timely, and Victor Timely picking it up. Like, it's, and then, like, the handshake.
The handshake is the big one to me.
Yeah, where it goes back to He Who Remains, like, agreeing to stop the war with all these other Kang variants. And so, and even, like, Sylvie, like, being like, that's odd.
Right.
That they...
It feels more like Victor was the one that OB chose because he was the one that he could manipulate the easiest. His lab is the same lab as he has at the TVA, over 2 miles until you could find a single person.
Right.
So it's like, why is he so isolated like that?
Yeah.
He could just, be a serial killer. But
right. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, if some of these things come together like everyone is saying right now over me. If some of these things happen, I'm gonna still question it a little bit. Question it.
The big questions to me are definitely, why does Sylvie have to be there? Because it's the temporal aura.
Right.
Why do we need Victor, and why do we need Sylvie if OB technically...
That was my thought with Renslayer, is like, if Renslayer had just because she's like, oh, it fell apart as soon as I left. And it's like, well, what if you're a Kang variant and you have the same temporal aura? The temporal aura is not there. Then that's the same kind of thing with OB. Like, if its temporal aura is there, it's not gonna... I don't know.
It's either a big plot hole that they aren't going to acknowledge, or they're going to solve it for us all in this last little bit. I think that OB is probably a Kang variant. Like, he felt like a bad guy in the first episode. Nobody trusted him right away. I think that's on purpose. But when he shook his hand, and the fact that his lab is the same, I'm like, okay, he's knows what he's doing right now.
Yeah, it's just,
he's not worried. He's not concerned. He hasn't seemed panicked in a single moment.
So, like, He Who Remains, running that whole TVA, decided to prune a variant of himself to write the handbook for it. That just does not make any sense at all.
Yeah.
At all. It makes no sense. Like, he doesn't trust any other Kang, so he's gonna put a Kang responsible for all of, like, the existence of other timelines. it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
me.
make. I would
So
agree. I'm in the same boat as you. I don't think it makes sense, any of these fan theories or anything. It's going to be plot holes is the
yeah.
problem
I mean,
here.
the plot right now doesn't even make sense. Like, why Loki? Why this Loki is time slipping?
Right. Why is it this Loki? Why does Sylvie have to be there? It was a great episode, like really good story building. It's obviously great acting across the board. Very fun to see their different lives, seeing what type of Easter eggs we can put. Like, why was B-15 in 2012 New York, but we didn't hear anything about Loki here?
Right.
Like, you're in 2012 New York.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I mean, if that's 2012 New York,
it might not be Loki's timeline though.
Yeah, the Avengers may not even be fighting a Loki.
Or
Like it could be
exist.
something.
Kind of like
Yeah,
the other two Spider-Mans didn't have Avengers in their
yeah,
world.
they don't know. Yeah, right. So
They thought it was a band.
right.
Are you in a band?
Right.
So that might be a different world, but why pick 2012 New York unless it means something?
Yeah, that is very odd.
It's
because like
really
that.
weird.
Yeah, right.
So it's like they're trying to give us a bunch of information, but they're giving you a bunch of red herrings. Like, look at this. Don't trust OB, the 2012 New York. What could all this mean?
Right.
And then over here, they're like, by the way, we had missed minutes in the background of this scene and this scene, and nobody's caught it.
Right.
It's gonna be it's stuff like that. That's all. This show is written very well, and I feel like it's gonna be that sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm
There's
definitely
gonna be like clocks in weird places.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be not taking notes, but very, very observant of this episode because some things just don't make sense, and the breadcrumbs they're laying.
Did you look at the post-credit thing?
What was it? The credits?
Yeah, the credit scene or like the credit Easter egg.
Maybe.
Okay, because I didn't look it up. I had heard that there was like, I went through the whole credits. I watched them because I always do. I didn't see anything. And then I heard that there was like a post-credit Easter egg that says a lot about where the future of like the next episode's going. I didn't want to look it up because I wanted to see if I could find it. I could never find it. And when I was like looking it up, when I had it up, I was like, I'm not going to look up what it is. So I still don't know. So I was hoping that maybe you had seen it.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Same reason for like Gen V just finished on this last Thursday, episode 5 of Loki, and I haven't watched like what's next on Gen V because it just spoils it. So I don't watch any of like that. Are you gonna watch it right now or what?
It says stay all the way through to credits at 44:30. Brad Wolf, who is the voice of Hunter X05, in a line presumably taken from the Zaniac arcade game that we glimpsed earlier in the episode. He says, "You died. Insert your coin, loser."
That explains what's going to happen in the next episode.
In the comic books, that X05 plays the actor Brad Wolf in Thor 319 play in 1982, which 82 is where Sylvie is, right?
Yeah, 82 or 83
it would
or 85
partially explain why he doesn't want to be there, but Brad Wolf, a hit actor, ends up playing serial killer Zaniac, which is the video game that was in Loki, which is it's an atomic blast that leads to Wolf being possessed by a killer demon.
I don't think that has anything to do with it.
So that might be just a kind of like Captain America sitting down like, so you're here.
Yeah.
One of those where it really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I don't think
that means anything.
Right.
I do think Miss Minutes didn't show up a second in this episode, so we need to see a lot of her.
Yeah.
I'm still wondering.
It's got to be a Kang.
Renslayer.
There's got to
be Renslayer doing.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Because it's not.
What did Sylvie and Renslayer do? Talk about what happened there?
Spaghetti.
Yeah, I don't know. There's got to be another Kang. There has to, like, there's no one holding the Kangs back now.
Right.
Like he thinks he is.
Just like we mentioned in a previous episode, it's probably Council of Kangs.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. There's got to be like a Kang Prime at some point. I want to
hear a fun fact, little behind the scenes for listeners too, for this show, this podcast, this YouTube channel. Our short, because you don't see dislikes on YouTube anymore, our short where we talk about the Council of Kangs and the 3 Kangs at the end of Quantumania is our most disliked short.
Nice.
Very good. Most thumbs down of anything else. So
very good. I was 15 of those. So
love that theory.
Yeah, I was 15 of those. So
yeah, it's the I think it's the only video across the whole channel that has less than 50% thumbs up. It's like more people thumbs it down than thumbs it up.
Yeah, whatever. We've hit a lot.
We have hit a lot.
We have hit a lot.
And just because people don't like it doesn't mean it's not true.
I think this next episode is going to leave us with some question marks. But the one thing I do like about it, and I think Marvel planned this really, really good. Loki episode 6, the finale, is coming out on Thursday, and then the Marvels is coming out directly after it.
Yeah.
Like directly after it. So I'm hoping there's some kind of tie. Some very little tie, whether it's got to do. Hopefully, I think, well, from a multiverse standpoint,
yeah,
I think there might be. So,
okay,
I'm thinking. I mean, I think it's going to come at it from different angles, but I think there's going to be some multiverse aspect because they have to. It's the multiverse saga.
That'd be cool.
Do something
that would make a lot of sense because so far we haven't really tied anything together.
Yeah, Multiverse of Madness was like, oh my god, other universes exist. We're not going to revisit those ever.
Yeah. Well, so little tangent here. People have said that since Endgame, Marvel is just on a steep incline or decline. Right. Like people said they haven't liked it since then. The one consistency that you can say whatever you want about the CGI, whatever. The one consistency that happened in the previous before Endgame versus after, tying it into other projects. There was always a post-credit scene with Nick Fury getting together the Avengers or S.H.I.E.L.D. The Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you had an opportunity to bring Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel in or somebody to tie it in. Wanted to stick with just Nick Fury. Moon Knight introduced a new hero with Scarlet Scarab rather than tying it in at all. A lot of these shows don't really tie anything in, and I think that's part of where they struggle.
WandaVision to Multiverse of Madness has. Falcon and the Winter Soldier hasn't yet, but it will. Like tied to the next project. Miss Marvel did. Hawkeye hasn't.
Right. She-Hulk did.
She-Hulk.
And the only episodes that people liked were Daredevil and Hulk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So
surprise. But, they like the ones that tie it in.
People were way too harsh on that show.
Yes.
She-Hulk. But yeah, there's a lot that's like much like this Loki we were talking about. There's a bunch of branches and we don't know where on the tree they're going to be. So it's just there's a lot of branches of Marvel that has happened with this phase, and I don't know where they're going to connect.
Tying that back into Loki episode 5, don't climb trees.
Yeah.
B-15 put down on that when she was a doctor on that cast, don't climb trees because she fell off a branch. That was just a subtle little hint at like the branches are failing, the branches are falling apart.
Right.
It's all Kang's plan. Like what's crazy to me is the TVA and like the end of time and all that was supposed to be, they're selling it to the audience as Kang invented all this to put himself in power. Now, He Who Remains says he did it on purpose because it was the only way to keep the world together by having a sacred timeline. Obviously, we know that's not true. Like, he does that because it makes sure his successful timeline where he stays in power.
And when he explained it, he said there's his timeline, which is a giant just circle of time. And then there's different universes. There's one that popped up above, popped up below. So what I think he was doing was just holding his... He kind of built a shield around his timeline by pruning all these branches. He put a shield around this timeline. And so like this was the
Peter
story
Parker,
he wrote.
Tobey Maguire holding the train.
Yeah. So he was holding it. He was holding his timeline together. But then once Sylvie killed him, there's no shield on either side. And so there's all these other universes that are trying to take over each other. I don't know. I'd like to see what happens. So I just want to know what is going on because I don't have any idea right now. Like
a big reason why I really don't have much to say on this episode is because I don't know what's gonna happen.
I have
how
no
far
idea.
Back can Loki go? Like what are his limitations to time slipping? Because if he can control it, can't he just go to his own timeline on where's so does that mean he is basically his own tempad? What's gonna happen? How because he was also time slipping early on in the episode and then never time slipped again until the end.
It was a convenient time slip. Yeah. And then he's just chilling with OB forever. Like the OB variant.
Yep.
Just forever.
Right until it's convenient to move the plot forward.
Right. Yeah.
It
So
doesn't make a lot of sense.
how far back can he go? How I would understand it would be, well, he can't because he went into the past versions of the TVA.
Uh-huh.
So like I saw something that said if time if time travel was invented, you would only be able to time travel until to the point where time travel was invented, if that makes sense. So like if time travel was invented right now, 100 years from now, you can only get back to this point. So like that's how I would assume time slipping works is like from when he got pruned and entered the TVA, that's the furthest back he could go.
We just
Because
know that
I
that's not
guess
true because of where he because he was
right,
time
he's in the
slipping
past.
to
He's
the
in
past. He was time
right.
slipping to the world Sylvie was
The
on. To
future
yeah,
where he pruned himself. Like,
yeah.
yeah. I don't
So
know the
can he go
logic.
back to baby Thanos and
Yeah.
where can he go? Where can I know that's the Hulk calls Rhodey morbid for that, but I mean
Yeah.
he could
Yeah.
genuinely like how far back could he go?
Right.
Could he decide I'm gonna do the ultimate Loki selfish move and say, Sylvie woke me up. Sylvie understands I'm doing this because I don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
When maybe I need to learn how to be alone and then go
Yeah.
back in
I
time
don't
and
know
fix the
how
world
far
for
back
himself.
because like he can't alter anything in that's happened like anything that's happened because like then every movie we just watched is invalid because it changes it.
Right. And they make a point in Endgame to say changing the past doesn't change your future.
Right. Like that had that all that stuff had to happen. And I we know we talked about Nexus events, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
which
So
this was
we're
considered a Nexus event.
right. So yeah, him falling in love with himself as Sylvie was his Nexus event or whatever. But the no, an infinite point or whatever, the finite point in time, like in
The
what if
explosion of the loom on Marvel's timeline is considered a Nexus event.
sure. So so the Nexus event is something that's going to happen in every like for it's using Peter Parker. Uncle Ben will die or something like
Mm-hmm.
that. So that's like every that happens in every Spider-Man's life. Like I think Iron Man, him dying was gonna happen regardless.
Yep.
Like in Kang's story that he who remains story that he was writing. So I don't think Loki can go back and change that because like I think it still has to happen.
Right.
So
And
I
I
don't
also
know.
don't get why the loom getting destroyed destroys all timelines. Because isn't the loom only made so that the TVA can exist? So if the loom blows up like that, it's just the TVA that should get destroyed? Because it's not like those timelines only started existing when He Who Remains built the loom.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like if the loom blows up, it's like, oh, well, those timelines would have existed without
How
it.
did it start? Like, how did it? Like, okay, I get it. He builds the loom, but is it just like one skinny branch going all the way around? And
Right.
then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, it's expanding. We gotta contain it. And
That's because
then,
there's no really real consistencies. They'd never be able to explain it to you.
yeah, but we asked the real questions here.
My biggest question is why do we care if it blows up? Those timelines existed before the loom anyway.
But but the TVA still exists. Like it blew up and everything went white, and then the TVA is still there. So it's like,
Uh-huh.
oh, we're all gonna die. Did they die? They could have died, but our Loki didn't die because he still had knowledge of everything.
Right.
So it's not like everyone else could have died, but why is Loki the chosen one? And
They
like,
haven't explained why Loki is
and why does Sylvie remember everything?
right.
No
Outside
one
of
else
in
remembered
season
everything.
1, Mobius telling Loki like he's different. Like outside of that, that's all that's not good enough. I'm sorry, like, that's not
Yeah,
good enough.
why that 2012 Loki? How is that any different than like
Yeah.
why is the Loki from either 616 or 19999, whatever you want to call it? Why is that Loki so important?
To the like why? We have no explanation.
Yeah, to the whole thing.
If you can explain that to us, people listening and watching, let us know, please. Because holy cow, I have no idea. And I don't know where they're gonna go from here. But you know what is we talked about shows bringing in like you think maybe they'll do a Marvel's connection for this finale, shows that connect. You know what show is going to be connecting other universes and have
I,
other characters in it?
I would assume something that's connecting like Hawkeye to She-Hulk, possibly.
That is correct. Echo. For those of you who haven't seen Echo, the trailer, It looks amazing.
If you've seen Echo and Hawkeye, I would say one of the more disliked characters
for no reason at all. She was
for no
awful.
reason, right? For just a disliked character, just her character didn't have much like depth to it, and she
Which
didn't
they
do
did
all
on
that
purpose because they
much.
were going to make her own show.
And they didn't do all that much. They were just kind of there, and they were kind of like annoying to the main plot, which was like Hawkeye and Kate Bishop versus Kingpin, but then Echo was like thrown in there, kind of getting in the way of everything.
Uh-huh.
So she's going from this kind of like character to quite possibly the best trailer for a Disney Plus product I've ever seen.
My reaction on Twitter, for those who didn't see, was I'm already predicting it's going to be the second best Marvel show. It'll be top 2. I didn't say second. It'll be top 2. Might not be number 2.
We both said the same 2 words, and it was the holy shit. Like
it looks so good.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So,
it looks incredible. We saw Daredevil in it. That's not why I'm excited, but obviously that helps. They specifically have been using the word punish a lot in their advertising. Probably not a coincidence.
I doubt that Punisher is in this.
Why
I
though?
hope for I don't know.
TVMA. It's TVMA.
It is TVMA. It is TVMA.
Why would they keep using the word punish if he's not in it? Just to fuck with us?
Yeah, I don't know. If they just have a little glimpse of Frank Castle, good lord, the internet would explode if Frank Castle was just in there for a second.
Yep.
Like you see John Bernthal, and John Bernthal's obviously coming back. We know that John Bernthal's coming back. Kingpin's like, coming back.
For those who didn't see our reaction to the finale of Hawkeye, we talked about how Kingpin's going to come back with his eye patch just like he did in the comics.
Right. Yeah. So
if you listened to us, you would have known this was coming.
Yeah, he's definitely coming back. Like I don't know. It's just TV for it to be TV mature as well. Like finally they're stepping into this like darker world. And
Blade's gonna be rated R.
Punisher would definitely like Daredevil Born Again,
especially on street level heroes. It makes way more sense to be R, MA. It's brutal. And really, if you read comic books in general, if you don't, it's fine. But comic books in general were brutal. Like, remember when Mysterio convinced Wolverine to kill all of the X-Men?
Yeah.
And in the comic books, he's covered in blood. His face is covered in blood, and there's dead X-Men everywhere. Just torn apart.
Blob eating the Wasp.
Right.
And it's like, tastes like chicken.
Yeah.
Wolverine going to Planet Hulk, killing all of Hulk's children, Hulk swallowing him, and then Hulk ripping Hulk or Wolverine ripping Hulk
from the inside.
Yeah. It is brutal.
That's TVMA.
Yeah, it is. And I'm glad they're finally dipping their toes in it, because
imagine if this World War Hulk movie that's coming out was R.
Yeah.
Like, your picture of what this movie was going to be completely changes when you think PG-13 to R.
Yeah.
And having shows like Echo and Blade and movies like Blade come out that are going to be
Daredevil Born Again. If Punisher is in the series, it has to be TV mature. If you've seen Punisher on Netflix, it is very graphic. But I mean, what happened to Frank Castle was very graphic. Like, he's just chilling with his family at a park, and then all of a sudden the government / corrupt the officials just light up the park like a Christmas tree. Just kill his wife, kill his kid. He gets shot in the head. He's got a bullet in his head. Like, that's so graphic. And so and Kingpin is graphic. Like, if you've seen Daredevil on Netflix, Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin like bashed someone's head between a door until it was flat. So it's like, it should be. And in the
trailer, Kingpin looks like he's gonna beat the crap out of that guy that wouldn't help, like
hot dog stand or something like that. Yeah. So,
which I know that was an overreaction, but when I see
that's very Kingpin though. Like, Kingpin's very like,
I related to that moment really hard.
Sure.
Like, if I were to see
someone up in an alley,
well, if I were to see that interaction, especially knowing that girl is deaf and this guy's treating her this way,
right?
That's the reaction that comes to my mind. It's just my sane self tells me, no, you can't do that. But I
Right.
definitely play the scenario in
You're
my
also
head.
not like 6'6", 380 or what a 6'8", 380. Like he's huge
No,
too.
no,
Like
no, no, no. Take
so
off a foot and minus 200 pounds.
yeah. Yeah, no, that's very Kingpin-esque. I think Vincent D'Onofrio's done a good job of kind of twisting his character a little bit, but still being that same Kingpin from Daredevil, like the way he talks, the way he acts, and how like emotions hit him, I guess, hit his character is very similar to the Daredevil series as well.
Well, I think Echo's gonna be fantastic. It looks
Yeah,
so good, and like just from the trailer we got to see, and so another thing that we'll talk about here, Marvel slash Disney is introducing this thing called Marvel Spotlights,
sure,
which they're giving it a title when they don't need it to. Like, oh, this is our first Echo is their first Marvel Spotlight project.
sure,
Where they're gonna the whole point of them is their shows and movies focused on character driven stories and plot, like good plot
sure.
writing. Isn't that your goal in everything?
Yeah,
Like when they
exactly.
announced that, I was like, what the fuck? You're not doing
Yeah,
that for every movie? So you're
right.
admitting these
Right. And
past
you're
few things.
and are you just doing it because it's a disabled superhero?
Right.
Like she has a prosthetic, she's deaf,
Uh-huh.
she's like a woman. Are you just doing that because it's like you want to highlight the disabled part or do you want to highlight the woman part? And like why is it
Right. Or the fact that
now?
she's a woman of color.
Why is
The
it
fact,
now?
yeah.
Like why couldn't it have just been Moon Knight? Why couldn't Moon
Mhm.
Knight been a
Moon Knight would have been good too. Moon Knight would
because
be a
that's
great character driven show,
yeah, that's what
which
I'm
we
saying.
liked Moon Knight,
Like
but
Hawkeye had too many pieces. I
mhm.
mean, I think Echo has the same amount of pieces, but I mean, like you're doing a character spotlight, but you're gonna have Daredevil in it
Falcon
too.
and the Winter Soldier had a lot of pieces too.
Right, right. And so like there's not much, but like Miss Marvel could have been one. Miss
Yep.
Marvel could have been a character spotlight
It
or Marvel
made sense if
spotlight.
you labeled that as a character spotlight, it would make sense, or a Marvel
Right.
spotlight. It makes sense.
Yeah.
It's just that whole Marvel spotlight thing doesn't make any sense
Yeah.
to me at all. It's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
shouldn't
We'll have to
you're either
see.
admitting that you haven't been making character driven stories, or you're trying to put emphasis on something that like you're
Yeah,
trying
why
to
now?
create reason for
Why
people to
now?
care,
Yeah. So
which it's gonna be good anyway.
yeah,
Like if
it's gonna
for those who don't know much about Echo, just a quick Google search. Just she's her character in the comics has a rough time.
yeah.
Even like when she fights, she loses a lot.
Yeah.
She like loses to Daredevil, loses to Iron
Yeah,
Man,
and
loses
like
to
there's
Venom, like
no
this
you see
all of
Ven
them.
or you maybe say Venom. You see Daredevil like dash through a gap in a hallway, like jump over like a box or crates or something. Which means Daredevil's gonna be in it. Echo has no reason to just buddy up with Daredevil.
Nope.
Zero reason whatsoever. And so if Daredevil's going after Kingpin and she's going after Kingpin, she's gonna see that as like a threat. Like they're gonna get
He's
in each other's
mine. It's
way.
not necessarily let's work
Right.
together, it's he's mine.
She probably wants to kill him. Daredevil doesn't want to kill him. He just wants him to like have justice, like
Well, it's
justice for
probably
what
gonna
he's
be
done.
something like Kingpin tells Echo, like Daredevil's obviously the thorn in Kingpin's side, the only person
Right.
that really seems to be able to beat up all of his men, actually infiltrate him. Like
Right.
Daredevil's his biggest concern. It's probably going to be something along the lines of Kingpin telling Echo, "You take out Daredevil, and I'll never bother you again."
Right. Something like that. Yeah. I don't know. I like
Because he's holding
from
that whole trailer. She's holding him up at gunpoint.
yeah. And the whole thing, like from what Daredevil can do to what Echo can do, this Daredevil, Charlie Cox's Daredevil, should wipe the floor with her.
But
Like
they are
wipe the floor
changing
with
her
her.
powers.
Right.
So we don't know what she's gonna do.
She's
In the
gonna be able
comics,
to
she
do
can
it, yeah.
imitate anything she sees, like
It's like
Taskmaster.
Taskmaster, sure.
And it's the one time she's able to beat Daredevil is because
Like a
she
loud place, right?
she
Like they're in a
puts
loud place.
she starts playing loud sounds so that he can't track her.
Right.
It's the basically she wins like 2 fights in her entire comic book history. Like her character is I'm telling you, like anybody that doesn't know much about her should look her up because she has a rough time. She basically loses in all her fights and in multiple series. Like the character dies and goes away. It is
Yeah.
a rough time.
Right.
I hope that the change that they made to her powers doesn't take away from her character at all. But I also hope they don't make her superpowers be like. I hope they don't make her be like she can shoot
They
a
don't.
beam.
They don't.
Please, no
They
lights.
don't Gaia. They don't Gaia this. You're just hoping they don't Gaia it.
Yeah.
So
Please don't make her have a light anywhere. Please,
she should
no
be
beams.
martial artist, Matt. Just martial artist. That's it.
If
really,
you want to
like,
improve, like have her have almost like superhuman eyesight because of her hearing loss,
right,
and it like as opposed to increased senses. I'm pretty sure
right,
that's
which is very
considered a
similar
myth,
to right.
but
Well,
like,
Daredevil also fell into some radioactive stuff,
right.
so that could also like affect
But if you
his
did something
senses.
for her along those lines too, I'm cool with it. Like if you make it so not only can she also imitate, maybe she also is able to find the weak point in everybody's fighting style. She's like a true master martial artist.
Sure.
And then also improve her smell and sight.
Right.
That makes it
I mean,
feel...
Daredevil in She-Hulk or Matt Murdock very much had those increased senses because he smelled the jet fuel in the guy's boosters or whatever. So like that aspect of Daredevil is very similar. Like he could sense her heart rate or like the heart rate's improving or heat warming up or something like that. So if it's something similar to that and she can use that same kind of thing to kind of outsmart Daredevil in a fight, maybe she can see something that's about to happen prior to it happening, or like can mentally picture something happening before like, Daredevil.
Sherlock, have you seen the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlocks? Have you seen those?
Yeah, like where they freeze and they're like,
he can imagine how everything is going to play out, so he always wins his fist fights.
Sure.
Or he knows when he can't fight because he knows he'll lose.
Right. So yeah, something like that maybe.
I'd be cool with it. What do you think Echo's going to be? For anybody listening, watching, do you think Echo's going to be great? Do you think I'm over exaggerating when I say it's going to be top 2? Are you excited about Marvel moving to MA or rated R content? Because to me, it doesn't make any sense to make Blade anything lower than R.
Right.
So
or to have Punisher in a series and not make the TV mature.
It's really like a no shit comment. Like, obviously it's not going to be.
Yeah, like something like Venom. Like something like Venom should probably be rated R, and like something with like Venom that would have like Carnage in it. That should also be like rated R. Right. Yeah. Positives though, I'm gonna kind of shit on Sony right there. Kraven the Hunter's rated R. So
yeah, now make Madam Web rated R.
But not for gore.
Let us know what you think. Are you excited? And is Loki the best Marvel show of all time? I say yes. Leave a comment, like, share, subscribe, please, for the love of God. And on that note, you all look great today.
Don't wanna sleep in, cause I got something to prove. I gotta take what I hate and finally make a move. I think of you and all the shit you don't do. Well, I'ma make hella sure that I don't become you. Have no regrets, yeah, I'm tired of my chest. I'll never